So, I was working with a group of accountants the other week in the city, and it was a small group. We began early on, as we often do, with some filming. Why do we do filming? Well, it's fairly common, isn't it? The reason I do it, particularly, is so that people can start to dilute the inner critic, the subjective voice that's telling them, I'm useless, I'm worried, all that kind of stuff, and start to get a kind of objective look at how they come across. You know, the things that are working really well, the things that perhaps aren't working as well as they might, things they can develop and improve on. And it really shifts them away from that. Anyway, one of the women particularly stood out for me. When she came on, she was markedly uncomfortable as she stood there in front of us. Her eyes were cast down. She was trembling slightly. Her voice, when she spoke, was sort of held back in the throat. And these are common things. I see them all the time. This woman particularly was going through it. So it's just a minute. It's very quick. It's a microcosm, if you like, of what you do all the time. So a minute's enough time. The thing is, she was suffering and going through it and hesitating. Her voice was quite monotone. And then, and this is the key thing for me, there was a moment, she was talking about one of Steve Jobs' speeches she'd seen that had moved her particularly. And when she mentioned that, there was almost a sudden transformation. Because as she mentioned it, she immediately connected to it, to the experience of watching that speech, listening to it, and all the things it did for her. And as she connected to it, she started to, as it were, relive it. And she became more animated, more determined, I suppose. There was something in her particular experience that was about determination, and just incredibly magnetic to watch, because she was engaged and right in the moment, slap bang on the moment. She wasn't about what she should be doing, what people are thinking of her, how this was coming across. She was there. And as she connected to that moment, so did the audience, myself included. And we became absolutely fascinated. We were literally, for a brief amount of time, it was only a minute, as I said, hanging on her every word. An incredible change. So we talked about that afterwards. And we wondered how it would be if you could catch that from the get-go. If you could be in the moment from the get-go, not as you come on and you warm up and then you kind of connect, but how is it that you plug in and get that right there in the moment, connected with people feeling, which is, after all, one of the things that really is going to make what you do stand out from the other kind of stuffed suits doing their business presentations. I mean, forgive me, that's a little harsh, but you know, it's a competitive world out there. Prospective clients see lots of people. So how is it that you can stand out, be in the moment and stand out and let your real personality and your real connection to something come through? You know, not clever words, the real thing from the heart.